Vainqueur, best dragon of all, looked at the map from atop his hoard with skepticism. Why manlings? His minion advisors, gathered around the war board, exchanged glances. "Excuse us, Your Majesty," Marber asked. "Why are we using manling figurines to represent my kobold minions?" Vainqueur repeated. His minions had created a map of the western part of the Mistral continent, showing Pryden, Gardy-Magny, and his own empire. Hundreds of tiny figurines represented the armies on all sides of the conflict. But most of Vainqueur's own soldiers were manlings miniatures. "We are using boards and conquest miniatures," Allison explained with a frown. "My miniatures, I should add. Kobolds, goblins, orcs, mimics, and other monsters don't have representative armies in B&Q. Neither do ghouls, even though vampires of the Nightlands have their own miniatures," Corpselling Jules said. "Which I find racist. This lack of averagism thinking is exactly why a consumption-based model is doomed to fail," Marber nodded. At least they had a tiny dragon to represent Vainqueur himself, but it infuriated him that the fairies and their monsters had their own miniatures. "You will order Troll Barnabas to craft new figurines for each of my minions, after he is done forging my new War of the Horde veteran medals," the dragon ordered, "because this is very confusing." "What is confusing is Victor's absence at this gathering," Nightkia said, looking at a missing seat. "Alongside Moore's. My minion is working on a great magical project that will give us the edge in the conquest of Pryden," Vainqueur recounted his minion's own words. "And hopefully, breeding our reserve force. I still can't believe he found the time to have 16 kids," Nightkia said. "At least whores get paid for their service." "Maybe he should," Battling Charlene said with a knowing smile. "But back to the matter at hand. Taking into account our colonies and the fact that every single one of our citizens can fight, we may field around 70,000 soldiers. However, even with access to the Nightblade's black market and stolen reserve of crests, only a tiny fraction of them are crested. 555, without including Your Majesty, Victor, or myself," Nightkia explained. "Obviously, we are also the only people above level 60 in the entire peninsula." "Enrollo," Untasty Allison pointed out. "Enrollo," Nightkia admitted, eager to swipe her shameful showing against the golem under the rug. "The good news is, we can raise 3/4 of our fallen as undead if they die," Corpselling Jules pointed out. "We can also raise an additional 50,000 from our allies in Happyland, Agartha, the Tikoku, the Muhuan, and the Theodan Empire," Charlene said. "Bringing the total to 120,000 troops. That gives us a credible chance to attack Pryden, but they possess powerful magic, farmers with class levels, and war beasts," Nightkia said. "Not to mention Odiaz herself. A monster that powerful is an army in itself." "This sounds straightforward to me," Vainqueur replied, annoyed by the ambient pessimism. "I am a dragon, you are minions. I burn a path forward, you clean up afterward. I will even empower you with my army-friendly perks." "That approach may have worked in the Tikoku, but you had the backing of a goblin army then," Nightkia pointed out with a distasteful face. "I say you send emissaries to Gardy-Magna to gain their support. They are the nation with the strongest military, a bone to pick with the farmers, and I know their leadership personally. More bodies to throw at the enemies are important, but we need something else more," Corpselling Jules said. "Namely, crests. I agree, Buzz Jelly has been 30 since forever, and have you seen his stats?" Untasty Allison pointed out. "On Mr. Victor's orders, I have used my contacts to gather crests and stat boosters," Tasty Malfi explained. "While we got our hands on boosters, in spite of the heavy expenses, crests remain difficult to obtain." "Why?" Vainqueur asked, confused. "Do they not drop out of the skies after you win a difficult battle? Should they not fall into my minions' hands as we attack Pryden?" "Not necessarily," Corpselling Jules replied. "No one can predict when crests will appear. It would be better to locate existing ones than hope for new items to drop. Nations hoard crests to empower their own elite, Nightkia said. And to prevent the proliferation of dangerous, crested criminals. My night blades gathered all of those available on the black market, battling Charlene complained. We will have to go to foreign authorities for more, or invade dungeons ourselves. That could open our soldiers to another venue of gaining more power, corp-selling Jules said. Namely, Mook Promotions. Now, you are speaking my language, minions, Vainqueur decided since the discussion had started boring him. Is there not a dungeon competition waiting for us to win it? Yes, but only small teams can participate, Nightkia said. And they're fishy as he Happyland, Tasty Malfi cut her off. There are a few dungeons in the Empire that remain unexplored, Marber said. And in the underground tunnels of Agartha. Then send experienced minion legions there, so they grow stronger and gather crests, Vainqueur ordered. Your Majesty, this is a good idea, Nightkia began. I know, it is mine. But I would like your authorization to return home to Gardy Magni and lobby King Roland for crests. I know I can convince him to send us a few more. Most importantly, my old party lives there, and most of them are either level 60 or above. They would be tremendous boons to our war effort. Why would they help and empower a nation of monsters right next to their border? Charlene asked. Because Gardy Magni and the VNV Empire signed an alliance pact when His Majesty overthrew Brandon Moore, Kia pointed out. While Odiaz threatens us all. Certainly, go home minion, Vainqueur said, more than happy to get the paladin away from his capital. With Manling Victor on a breeding frenzy, the dragon couldn't let her tempt his chief of staff with her nightly wiles. I believe 1,000 crested would give us the advantage, corp-selling Jules said, shifting the miniatures. If we move an army on the west coast, another on the eastern, we can form a pincer attack and take over the southern part of Pryden. Minions, I notice a startling lack of dragon figurines, Vainqueur said suddenly, noticing the flaw in his lackey's strategy. A heavy silence followed until Untasty Allison coughed. Your Majesty, about that, how are we supposed to welcome thousands of dragons when 200 almost bled us dry? Battling Charlene said. A Tarisk feast, Vainqueur pointed out the obvious. What about the water, the space, the nonsense? Vainqueur cut her off in annoyance. My chief of staff said that he would do the thing, and he will succeed. If Murmurin even survives this conclave, how are we supposed to feed a dragon army for more than a day? Battling Charlene kept arguing, while the other minions made strange hand signs at her. Easy, the battle shall not last more than a day, Vainqueur replied, proud of his species. Do not mistake the situation, minions. This is not a war. This is an execution by dragon fire. Your role is to sort out the ashes. Dragon air support will be decisive, Nightkia said. But the farmers have been preparing for such an attack for years. We need more advanced tactics. An imp messenger popped up in the middle of the meeting. Your Majesty, emergency. Emergency. This is a war meeting, Malfi said. Can't this wait? It's Daltonia, the imp hissed. Daltonia, Dodo hybrids have escaped Daltonia's pens. The Tarisk has gone out of control. What? I will deal with this myself. Vainqueur declared, roused to action. None shall spoil my feast. When Vainqueur crossed the portal to Daltonia with Nightkia in tow, they found themselves in front of a monster feasting on a demon's entrails. The creature had the head of a dodo and the body of a bear. A dodo bear! Vainqueur exclaimed in happiness. The experiment had been a rousing success. You named it. I bred it. Vainqueur boasted, Nightkia taking a step back upon seeing the giddy joy in the dragon's eyes. I bred a dodo and a slime, then a bear and a slime, and then I bred the results. To create a dodo bear. Why would your Majesty do that? The paladin asked, unable to grasp her master's grand vision. Because we are at war. Vainqueur shouted, the knight taking another step backward until she hit a tree. We are at war with nature. Two species, driven almost extinct by accident. Should I accept it? No. So I bred a new species, taking the best of both. Dodos that can thrive everywhere. What will you manlings say when they see these mighty creatures put their eggs into bears, only to have dodo-headed children coming out? Charisma check successful. You terrified Kia Bekiel. Yes, minion. They will say that I, Vainqueur, bred a dodo bear. If there is a god of breeding, it is me. Vainqueur gathered his breath, while Knight Kia remained eerily silent. In the meantime, the dodo bear had finished eating, letting out a mix of a bear roar and a bird's screech. The dragon looked around, realizing that the breeding program had gone out of control. The animals had escaped their pens, massacring the staff, and rampaged through the dodo care. Only the victor-faced statues on the beach remained unscathed, dodos gathering around them to honor their maker and savior. A group of birds had sacrificed a fiend before manling victor's rolling of the dice statue, feeding on its entrails. Your Majesty! A lone, winged bone demon had managed to escape the slaughter, flying to avoid the claws of two ferocious dodo bears. Your Majesty has come to save us. What happened here? Vainqueur asked, grabbing the two dodo bears with his hands as if they were tiny horses. The creatures went limp in his hands. We did as your Majesty asked, creating the ultimate monsters, the demon said. Half EXP bag, half super boss. But the first clutch started mutating due to radiation, and we couldn't control them. How? Knight Kia asked, astonished. How? We cast a giant-size spell on a fertile dodo brood mother, fed gallons of aphrodisiac to the Tarisk Emperor, and fearsome roars echoed through the island, as its forest's trees trembled. Vainqueur smelled the Tarisk and its progeny approach in great numbers. Here they come, the demon hissed, hiding behind a disturbed Knight Kia while she drew her sword. Then they poured out of the woods, as beautiful as they were terrifying. Beware, the pterododos. Dozens of dodo-headed, bipedal lizards the size of elephants trampled the trees. Their crimson scales were covered with fresh blood, while their eyes radiated with fury and hunger. A spiked carapace protected their back, while their sharp claws and iron beak could tear through flesh and metal both. Their radioactive, greenish father followed, a tiny, normal dodo nesting on its head. Wee-a-a-a. The Tarisk let out a roar, his brood screeching in response like an army from the depths of Happyland itself. Minions! Vainqueur snarled in response. Minions! Alpha magnetism, scales, activated. Charisma check successful. The pterododos and their mighty father immediately submitted to Vainqueur, belly against the ground. Return to your pens, the dragon ordered, the creatures immediately protesting with screeches. No wee-a-a-ing with me, minions. Return to your pens. The creatures dispersed, the Tarisk leading them back into the ruins of the dodo care. See, minions. Vainqueur told his lackeys, releasing the dodo bears in his hands, the beasts wisely fled. They only need a firm, strong dragon master to teach them the minion way of life. You bred a Tarisk, Knight Kia muttered to herself. Your Majesty bred a Tarisk. I did. Vainqueur boasted, proud of saving so many species from extinction. He should receive an award for it. The dragon maid system apparently agreed. Congratulations! For creating a new, horribly dangerous monster that will become the bane of adventurers long after you are gone, you earned a level in Dungeon Breeder. You earned the Mini-Boss Breeder class perk. Plus 30 HP, plus 10 SP, plus 1 STR, plus 1 VIT, plus 1 Ski, plus 1 AGI, plus 1 Cha, plus 1 LCK Mini-Boss Breeder. All your monster minions permanently gain the Mini-Boss personal perk, plus 120 HP, plus 40 SP, plus 4 to all other stats, and plus 10 to damage with their personal perks. They will keep the benefit of the perk even if they return to the wild. Now, gather all my dodos and rebuild the dodo care, Vainqueur ordered his fiendish lackey. The pterododos regenerate faster than we can harm them, your majesty, the demon said. And their claws bypass all physical and magical protections. We need better guards. I am half horrified, half amazed, the paladin admitted. On one hand, these things can make for amazing shock troops, but on the other hand, I dread how many levels a farmer can gain from killing one. Then we shall keep them to ourselves, Vainqueur decided, amazed by his own brilliance. And then they would raise them as undead, for double the EXP.